Who will our next generation be? What will they achieve? At Proctor Public Schools, we see great things in the future as we create an environment to educate, engage, and inspire our students to seek adventure, gain knowledge, and make a difference. What do we see in the next generation? We see greatness. Proctor Public Schools. Don't just plan to graduate. Graduate with a plan.
So if we, you want to hear us?
Well, Lindley's been the only one there for a little
do seal coating again this year. We're being pretty careful with respect to what seal out of Ohio or something. So I think Randy was looking for sure the lives on found it out there. So we're just being a little bit careful with that. Field paint is another challenging thing for us to buy right now because the house paint has become so popular that they're not making some companies specialty now. So we're being really careful with respect to what we're doing. We can get a parking lot paint manufactured for us here in town in the Duluth area, but it's last time we did that it didn't work well with our equipment. We're just believe it. We're trying to take care of our lots. The plan was to do this lot this year. We may put that out here simply because we can't get out the lots. Seems pretty dumb. That's where we're at. But those are kind of the highlights of what we've got coming up. And I guess I just want to throw out any questions, anything that the board's concerned about. This will continue to evolve and continue to change. We'll see it again next year. For example, we've got $200,000 for the auditorium elevator. We may need somewhat more than that as we look at seating and things like that. So we'll just rearrange it and figure that out as we go. But for right now, that's what we're penciling down. So I'm open for questions, comments, and discussion.
I had a question up on the top box. Environmental health and safety management. So current year was 10.9, and then it went to 25,000, and then it jumped to 56. Is there a reason that it jumped that dramatically?
We've had it at 56 for a number of years. I'm starting to bring it down.
Okay.
But we do have to keep watching what new requirements we have coming up. For example, we've got 5-year lead testing coming up. We're waiting to see if radon testing comes through. It just seems like there's a couple of things coming down that may cost us some money.
Okay.
Really, my expectation is by 2023 we won't be spending 56, but I want to pencil that for right now.
Okay.
The other piece that we're going to see is we've got a staff member joining us that's very strong in safety, but we've asked that they concentrate on teaching right now.
Okay.
So that's what they're hired for. That's what we want them to do first. We'll see how that all plays out in the future. So we've got some other options coming.
Okay.
But it's not really. It's a jump down with the 10 and 25.
Can that money be reallocated to other things?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is
revised budget, of course. Just you revise it as you need.
Yeah.
Based off of the plan.
This is just a projection.
Yeah.
What it
Yeah.
wants us to do is just come to the board so the board is at least aware of what big projects we're thinking of. And we can spend this however we so desire.
Okay.
We're carrying some fund balance as well. That's going to be part of what helps us with the general fund this year. So we'll just continue to manage this as things go.
How about building envelope in 2023? What does that entail?
Building envelope in 2023, we're going to have, it's just there in case we need to do some window projects.
Okay, sure.
The high school windows are haunting us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not enough to do much. At some point in the future, we'll have to look at re-windowing a portion of that school. But for right now, we've had to do some window work on at Pike Lake. Windows have dropped in the opening, but a couple of years ago we did that. Primarily that. I don't see any major tuck pointing projects right now, and I think we're pretty up to speed on, for the most part, on painting the exterior stuff. I'd like to do the entrance to the auditorium, the canopy there, and the middle school. At some point, we can do those. You start to see some rust on them. Now, there's not a major project that we're thinking
Okay,
of right now.
thank you.
And there's zero in asbestos. Does that mean we are asbestos-free?
Does not. It means we haven't spent it lately.
Okay.
If we need it, it'll be there.
Okay, okay. I was just thinking, wouldn't that be great?
There's a long list of where we've got asbestos.
Okay.
In floor and ceiling and encapsulated paving.
Okay.
We'll see as we get into it, especially a boiler project, if there may be a situation where we have to do something, piece of pipe or whatever.
Okay.
But just breaking the other scrap.
Okay.
Last time.
Thank you.
Other questions? And most importantly, if there's something the board sees that they want to make sure gets taken care of, that we're not seeing anything.
You already have it in here.
And keep in mind that this is specifically for renovating something we already have. It is not for new construction.
Okay.
That's a quick summary of what we have.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think there was a time that we dreamed up one of these on our own, and then like the next year, it was required. I'm like, see, aren't we glad we did that? So,
Steve, I do have one question. Interior surfaces for the next 5 years jumps all over the place. What would be the reasoning for that?
Depends on whether we're going to do a flooring project or not. Interior services, paint and floor. Paint floor ceiling. Ceilings are pretty good. We should probably do the cafeteria. We're thinking we're doing cafeteria floor and in 2022. Then it's miscellaneous floors here or there. And then in 2025, we've got to look at how the cafeteria floor holds up. Our intention is to do a floor that's a waxless floor. So it's similar to what you shop at Super One, some of their closed departments have it. But it's waxless, so it's maintenance free. And if this is a successful piece for us, we need to continue to expand upon that program because we're putting months of work into stripping and waxing floors every year.
Yeah.
So we should look at, we'll start moving in that direction.
The 5th year is the one that popped out at me, so that explains that.
Yeah,
Okay.
They don't have a specific spot, but I want
Right.
a chance to see what how this cafeteria floor plays out before we continue on. You might be a hallway that's deteriorating.
Sure.
And just keep them
Okay.
It's floor.
Thank you.
any other questions? All right. So it's a resolution, truly, right? So this would be another roll call vote. When you're ready, Lynn.
Peterson, yes. Pockeridge? Ward?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Parmeter?
Yes.
Hornick?
Yes.
Shelton? Did I miss anybody? No. Unanimously approved, thank you.
Thank you. We will move on then to items for discussion and information. We will start with the superintendent update. John?
Well, as you look out the window, we did finally get our new banners changed to reflect our green and white and St. Luke's blue, white on blue and white on green.
Nice.
So they look rich. And then we finished completing the rails country that some were missing coming down Kirkus Street. So we'll continue to make sure that our campuses look sharp and up to date. So that was done today. So I was here at last, so that was nice. Certainly, we want to talk about, for curriculum instruction, our summer school programming. And just congratulations to our principals who put together an outstanding summer school program. Middle school was a big success. We can tell because we had 100% attendance in middle school. And so that's amazing for a summer school program. And then Bayview just really brought a lot of things to the table for our elementary schools, both at Pike Lake and at Bayview. So all of our elementary students were able to do that. And Diane and John and Mark and Gina planned, and our staff planned some pretty incredible programming. And I hope you got a chance to see some of that on the news and perhaps in person. Our August summer school is going to be a little bit different. That will be more targeted services, a direct look at helping our kids with any unfinished learning in math and in reading. And as far as curriculum teams, we're just a little bit on hold now as we move into the summer months, and we'll begin to resume implementation plans for all of our content areas in the fall. Tim and Gina recently met with Zello. These drug companies and software companies like playing with the X's and the funny letters, For me, from a marketing standpoint, if you can't pronounce it, if you struggle, it's a problem. But this is a career college readiness skill Rails for our Rails pathway program. So I'm interested to see how that meeting went and if it can be anything that we can use in the future. Management and leadership, a lot of things going on this summer. Some people say, what goes on in the summertime? Are you off? No, it's school. The business of school continues, so we don't have students for the most part, but certainly it's all the planning that we do. I'm also sit on the board of directors for the Northeast Service Cooperative, and that has board members from all of our area cooperative, Northeast Service Cooperative that sit on that board. Louise Lind was the last board member from our district that sat on there. So if you're interested in being a board member on that committee, let me know sometime. Send me an email. I think they pay you. And I think they meet once a month. But at any rate, it's interesting to hear what other board members have to say about their schools and moving forward and the progress that's being made, for example, at Rock Ridge. And so it's similar programs. I will tell you that you're a very good board. So proud to represent our district there. Steve and I met and just went over the facilities, long-term facilities maintenance budget. This used to be health and safety. So, you'd get approved for some things that needed to be, that would fall into the area of, health and safety. And some schools would build a new outdoor bleacher system because theirs wasn't safe and you had to get approved. Things changed, and that's what you just approved is that long-term facility maintenance, and it's based on the age of your building and the size of your buildings, and then you make the decision instead of having things approved in kind of a hope and wait and see fashion. Our administrators are currently, just finished looking at schedules and budgets for the upcoming school year. We did have a chance to meet with DocuSign. I don't know if anybody works in an office environment that you get DocuSign documents coming back and forth. We became a DocuSign client when COVID came into play. We just needed a way to move papers back and forth and to sign things, and if someone was requesting a leave, so many things we can do with DocuSign, so we look forward to expanding what we do, and Gina uses it in creating forms. We use it for special ed forms. We use it for just a number of things. And for me, if someone sends me a PDF and I need to sign it, I can draw it into DocuSign, do my digital signature, and send it back. It's a pretty valuable tool for us. T-Mobile, they're always trying to get us to switch over to T-Mobile. You've seen a lot of ads on the television with T-Mobile expanding their network. I think they bought Sprint a while back. They're a pretty big player in cellular service. Where they aren't big is in any kind of other media, and so they have their hat hung right now on cellular communications. They certainly would like all of our business, from the school district's phones, and they're very competitive. And so we're talking with them, and this is where we got all of our hotspots. They're all T-Mobile hotspots.
Is it T-Mobile or Team?
T-Mobile.
T is a team.
It says
that-
Team Mobile.
That Lori, she was transcribing because she can type a little bit faster than me. Not much.
Not much.
It's just accurate, though.
I'll fix it.
And Gina and I met on a phone call with Jody Farr. And so Jody is going to be our guest speaker for the upcoming start of the school year. And our student liaisons, if you want one of these, I'll give you one of these books. It's called the Urgency of Awareness. I know you go, really? But if you want to enlighten yourself as far as who our speaker is going to be. And so Jody Farr is going to talk about how it's important for us and educators and people in schools in general and organizations are aware of the impacts of poverty, race, gender, and those types of things on the culture in our schools. And so Jody was here 2.5 years ago and did just an outstanding job, and our faculty said, bring her back. And we're bringing her back. And this is her book. It's brand new, and she's pretty good.
Did she have another book before this one?
I don't think so.
Okay. No.
On behalf of our liaisons, will you offer it as an honors book?
It's an honors book for you, Tim.
Let's try to lighten it up.
Is this something we can come and watch her, John?
What?
We can do that? Attend?
I'm sorry?
Speaking? When she's speaking, can we attend?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We invite the board to all of our in-services.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you have a date for that, or? Yeah.
It's September 1st, 2nd.
First,
First.
yeah.
Yes.
Wednesday. It's first Wednesday.
Ish. We're having a world-famous administrator grill out. Did I tell you, Diane? Facilities and transportation, I'll just drop down here. I do want to talk about it, negotiations. So admin is set for negotiations, the first one, July 19th, and that's Lynn and Larry and Joe. And if you'd like to meet ahead of time, that meeting starts at 7 o'clock. So if you want, I'm just saying, if you want to talk for before this, or we probably tell Ed Minnesota that we need a pre-negotiation meeting ahead of time and start at 7:30, and then we'd meet in my office for a half hour. That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Okay. And same thing true with Local 66 and bus drivers. We'll ask to start at 7:30 so we can have a pre-negotiation strategy meeting, just to get some ground rules done. And I've worked pretty closely with our negotiating counterparts from AFSCME, so I know what they'll bring. Their format's a little bit different than ours, and Ed Minnesota likes the way that I've set up our negotiation district, so we'll do a combined notes with them, and I share them ahead of time. I think the transparency part of look at this is what we're bringing is important. It saves time, builds trust, and I just think it's important. So So we'll move forward with that. Facilities and transportation, I want to talk a little bit about Bayview. I included a picture of a new knee wall that we put in an entrance that nobody uses. You know, it's kind of before you go down the steps in the back of the parking lot, in the front of it's hard, I'm describing this horribly. As you look at the school where the library is, and you look to the right, there's a door facing east, and the bricks were separating, and it looked horrible, and it was pulling apart, and I don't think it was designed very well. We did the exact same thing in the lower part where you walk out under the playground. So that looks nice. I'll walk by and look at that if you'd like. And so we keep talking about Klang Park and what we should do with Klang Park. Should it be a varsity facility and turn that into 2 softball fields that are natural grass with some really nice amenities? Or do we fix the softball field here? And then, of course, the tricky thing with that is we own the infield and the city owns the outfield. So who owns the dang thing? And at issue is that the rock that's off to the fall line on third base is a big exposed rock. It's been there for 40 years or so. I don't know how many people have gotten hurt on it, but it just isn't the right place to have a rock. So as we looked at Klang Park, one of the things that we'd like to do is make sure that some of the facilities there we can use. The roof and that garage was just horrible, and Steve's a master roofer. Worked his way through college, years of experience. He'd like to talk about asphalt, but we don't have time. At any rate, Steve said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" He said, "I'm shingling." And I said, "What?" He said, "We're putting a new roof on the garage out at Klang Park." So Isaac and Steve and Woody put that roof on. So I drove by. You did a nice job. It looks nice. But I had to stop and take a picture of Steve and the guys up there. I was going to get up there and have someone take a picture of me so I could say that I helped roof, but I was heading to a meeting. But we've all done some things and chipped in and helped with the projects around, and so thanks, Steve and Woody and Isaac for getting that done. It looks nice. And then our flagpole and scoreboard are back, good as new. In fact, they are. And
almost as good as new. You still have to get hooked up to electricity.
oh well, yeah, okay. Community Action Duluth is partnering with Bayview Community Garden to host a farmers market July 14th and August 11th. That's tomorrow, Wednesday, sorry, not tomorrow, Wednesday. Joe made a mistake a couple meetings ago.
I know, I was just going to say,
I'm trying to make him feel good. Trying to make him feel good.
Thank you.
So if you're out and about and you want to buy some produce or whatever, I don't know if our garden is going to have anything to produce, but we certainly want to be the host of that for Community Action Duluth. So that's kind of a look at this second week of July and what's happening around the district.
Does anyone have any more specific questions from the superintendent update from John at all? Items he didn't speak about or things you have more questions about? All right, we'll move on then to item 11B, review timelines for board and superintendent evaluations. We put this on the agenda just as we were talking, usually towards the end of the school year, we start talking about evaluations. We've done a couple mid-year evaluations, and probably should just talk about where we're at with that and how we want to proceed.
Right, and so Lynn has led a little bit of the the change and the evolution of where our evaluations have gone, in that they're now goal-oriented, pretty pointed and aimed at our strategic plan, and pretty pointed and aimed at what the board's goals are for themselves and what they'd like to see in my job performance and my leadership for you. And so, with that being said, I think that's where you want to stay, in that evidence-based, goal-oriented, evaluative process. Yeah?
Yes, we attended that we did the MSBA training on, so I didn't make this up.
No.
No.
Sharon, I'm right here with John. so-
Oh, okay.
I can dig back, but maybe, Lynn, we can share the documentation from that training when we went to it with everybody on the board if they weren't
Yeah.
able to attend, just to have the background.
So as far as timing goes, again, so we should give some background, but if timing of things, we did one mid-year, and so now we are due for another one. We should talk about that and then put it on the calendar and schedule a couple different dates. So usually we do a date where we turn in. Well, let's see, we've done it a couple different ways. We've just come with the information and shared it all at the same time. And that's probably best. No need to do it over a couple courses of meetings, do you think? No? Okay. So it's July. And let's see here, we've got 2 meetings in August. Would we want to do it the last meeting in August? We would.
At the very latest, I would think, because we're
Yeah.
coming into a new school year.
Yep, and we did the last
So-
one in December. We did the mid-year in December.
That's a tough meeting.
So it's the 9th or the 23rd.
Well, that's
but
true.
It's busy meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9th? 3 weeks?
Sure.
Yeah. Right.
What's the discussion?
What day to pick for the superintendent evaluation?
Yeah.
If we did it the first meeting in August, that would give 3 weeks to get the information to us
First meeting in August, what day is that?
based on your goals.
That is the 9th.
I'm trying to look when we did it last
Weeks here,
time.
right?
We did-
So we got messed up last year because last year was
Yeah, it's
really
only-
headline.
Right.
Right.
Today,
You know,
Usually we've done it
It was?
in June.
Yeah, we did a
12th,
end of the year,
yeah.
and we did a mid-year.
Right.
19th,
Mid-year was December.
December.
26th,
Right.
2nd. Yeah, that's 4 weeks
And
from
we
today.
should be doing one
June.
June usually.
But here we are in this
Yeah, we-
strange era of school. Back to school.
The 9th is 4 weeks.
Oh,
okay.
it's 4 weeks.
4 weeks,
Okay.
yeah.
That should be.
Feels like it. a little bit. I think that's fine. Usually we've done it in, gather information in June, and we usually take the July meeting. I think we've done it because it's a short meeting, kind of, even though it's just the one meeting in July. But that'd be fine with me. August 9th?
I'd be- I think that'd be
Superintendent
fine.
Is that
evaluation?
what was the date, Steve?
The 9th,
9th? Okay.
August 9th, September 9th.
August.
Sorry.
And that's based on,
August 9th. Oh, yeah. I'm in August right now.
Yeah, there's another month, Amy.
I'm doing just fine.
Wednesday's the,
I'm just following Joe's.
Rolling Greens confusion?
Don't get too close to that guy.
It is Rolling Greens confusion.
All right.
so what's the expectation on the 9th?
So we'll be doing the superintendent evaluation after the regular
So
board
we do
meeting?
the closed meeting after the regular, yes.
Yes.
So, and we're talking about based on goals, but I want to point out, and I want input from everybody on this. When I get evaluated at work, I get evaluated on what my job is, what my duties are, not necessarily just my goals. And as you look through John's contract, he has specific duties that we should be evaluating to make sure that he is holding up his end of the bargain in the agreement. And that's what an evaluation would pertain to, is the contract agreement. I'm not opposed to evaluating goals. I think it's a great idea to probably do a combination. But again, I think it's extremely fair to evaluate on duties.
And the reason, if you remember, the reason that we went away from that a little bit is because we were being asked to evaluate things that we really don't know. You know, you might get 3 disgruntled phone calls and say, okay, you're not doing this.
I'm going to ask John to send out his agreement to everybody. And if you read through that, you will see that we can see if or if not John is completing his duties.
You mean the job description, Joe? You're gonna.
Yeah, well, it's not really, it's part of the agreement that the superintendent will be responsible for
Okay.
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, it's part of the superintendent's policies,
Yep.
you know, as far as the role of the superintendent.
Yep.
And then we also have goals that we've established, and I'd have to go back and look at that, you know. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, the goals, and I, like I say, I'm for evaluating goals. We need to set goals, and we need to look and see that they've been met. The goals got really convoluted because of
Yeah.
what we entered into.
Yes.
So it became really difficult then to do an evaluation, and had I noticed this prior to, we could have gone back and evaluated just on what John's responsibilities and duties are. So I think we should do both, and we always have that as a fallback when our world turns upside down like it did.
I think we can do a hybrid, you know?
What I don't want is the first time that I did an evaluation, there were things on there I had no idea, and it was ridiculous. And people were coming in, well, you didn't do this, and I got... That's not saying if he's doing the job or not, it's just somebody was upset and called a board member. And I think you would agree with me, we get many more phone calls that are negative than positive. And so I don't ever want to enter into another bashing session. I don't want that to happen.
Right, absolutely. And people that are happy with how a job is being done don't generally call and say, way to go.
No.
It's always
No.
It's
Yes.
always the stuff that people are upset with and,
Yep.
and want a resolution to. So,
Yep.
yes, I understand what you're saying.
How are the rest of you feeling? So,
What would be the form?
Look at something with
Yes, we'd like you to work on something.
work on something, and I'll review with what my goals are.
yes.
And then we'll reflect back on what a non-goal-oriented evaluation would be based on
Superintendent
Job duties.
responsibilities?
my responsibility.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to take us some time to find something that blends well with
Yeah.
goals plus those duties. I think
Yep.
that's really important to make sure we address, or at least, you know, speak to it in the ways that we do. All right. So, August 9th. And then, board evaluation. Should we tackle that after?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Please. And I think one of the things that we had talked about as a board is looking at the trust and building up that. So with the Trust Edge book study that we're doing with the community, that's us already applying some of the things we wanted to do. So we might be able to evaluate how that went as well.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah, it might be something that we, considering board evaluation, we have members that haven't been on the board for a year yet, so that might be like a January evaluation time, and then superintendent in June. That would be a nice way, you know,
Yeah.
to balance out the the process a little bit, I guess. Okay.
I had a long chat with Jim on the boat. I can evaluate him right now.
No, I know it, right? You better shut the mics off.
Want me to
brings
just shut it off right now?
And it's not a, like I was to say, it's not a pass or no pass on that one.
And you kind of think that, keep in mind when the board changes.
I was going to say, maybe it needs to be November, December.
Yeah.
December gets
That's
busy
a good
because it's
point.
truth in
Yeah.
taxation, but maybe it's November then.
Well, in some ways it's good because you can evaluate what you've been doing, but it's awkward for the new board members to hear you all talking about this evaluation you just went through.
I would
Right.
say November, because we don't want to take away from the truth of
No,
taxation.
that's a long meeting.
It's an enjoyable meeting, it's got fireworks in the PowerPoint.
So pre-election?
I mean,
if it can become awkward.
You don't want to do it
Yeah.
pre-election.
so, well, there's
Why-
two meetings in
why
December or
wouldn't-
one?
Because
only one.
if you have new board members
July
that
and
are
December
elected,
I'm saying you can do it between election and board members seated. You don't want to do it the week or two before the election.
No, that's intimidating. yeah.
Well, it will look as if you're trying to influence a election, and
Yeah.
we don't want that
Really?
appearance.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would almost be
Yes.
like
maybe I'm just naive. I
Do
don't-
we do it in
meeting at a
May?
meeting.
Do we do it
No
in
good.
May?
Would May be enough for a new board member that
Yep.
just started in January? Would that be enough, do you think?
Yeah, or do we do it on the July meeting? You're halfway through that first year, you have,
That would come on the tails of the superintendent one in June, though. Ideally. I mean, I know
Yeah.
we're doing it in August, but,
Yeah, I think towards the end of November, after the election.
I mean, if you're going to set it from this point going forward.
Right.
I mean, John's right, there's nobody up this year.
Correct.
But you're trying to pick a spot in the board calendar.
Mm-hmm.
That would make some sense.
Is that working around your election?
So happy holidays, December?
I think it'd be easier to add to
It's a
the,
truth in
You're always gonna be against
taxation.
Evaluating the boards that's going to have new board members on it.
Right.
Right.
I mean, so you're never going to resolve your issue. I
Let's-
just think-
So the thing.
November
Yeah, let's
22nd?
try November this year and see how it goes,
okay.
since we don't have an election this year.
at the November 8th or November 22nd?
22nd.
Yep, I gave you 2 days.
22nd.
22nd.
There too, to drink. Yeah, whatever you think there, bud.
can,
Oh, look,
No.
got the hostess again. I know, thank you. I love it.
No, thank you. I had dessert.
Thank you.
Yeah.
so is this information that can be shared out in advance? I mean, I would feel more comfortable commenting on this if I even knew what the evaluation looked at and what their, what we'll be discussing. How do we send information in advance? So,
Okay.
being a new board member,
Yes.
this, there's a lot of context happening that I'm not sure of. So.
Sure. So what John has done in the past for his superintendent evaluation is provided his goals and then his evidence to support his goals as how he's met his goals. For he fills it with lots of different things, conversations, communications, other things. And then in the past, we've taken just the superintendent job duties or like his job description, and we've evaluated that to some degree, like looking at the points. The superintendent will, attend to the education of all students, let's just say. It's more specific than that. But then he would always give us details of how he supported that. So that was what the superintendent evaluation has looked like in the past. Sometimes we've done it where we've collated a bunch of data, so we've had over 2 months. So you have to turn it in to the clerk, and the clerk and the chair had sat and gone through it and put it all in a document and provided it and ranked and scored and such, and that became a little bit cumbersome, and then you'd have a discussion about it. What we've done last year is we just came live and in person and provided at our closed meeting the information and shared it that way, which is just fine. And it's easy to do it that way too. As far as the board goals, those are created from the strategic plan. Thank you. And so we haven't really done that yet because we haven't done it yet because we had a pandemic, and that kind of just changed everything out. So we need to do that and evaluate our board goals from the strategic plan.
If I may, evaluating the board is, evaluating yourself is, but how do we do that? That's the question that comes to mind. So Minnesota School Board Association does provide services to come out, to meet with you, to talk a little bit about your role as a school board member and how to be better at it, or how to share your prowess with the rest of board members across the state. So they'll come out and do that for you. I certainly can reach out to the folks who do that evaluation.
Yeah. Gail Gilman?
We did it one year, Joe. Remember, we did it one year, and it was a little bit cumbersome, and I hope maybe they've made it better. We did it one year, and it was crazy because you had to remember, you had to have a unique username and a unique password, and you had to remember it forever and ever and always.
And there were a lot of things that really didn't apply to us, because not every board is identical. So there was a lot of stuff that, like I say, didn't apply to us.
And maybe it's because our goals were different than what they are right now. Maybe because they weren't aligned with a strategic plan or something. But it felt very weird.
Do we want to designate, I'm looking right at Lynn, and I would be willing to assist, but kind of, because we both went to that training, to put together like a proposal of what we would do for that school board evaluation so that everybody could look at it prior to November 22nd or 8th.
Yeah, ideally we'll be getting it like in October, so you have the time to mull it over and then come with your, it ready. Just like John will get us his goals, we'll get the template for evaluating, and then as we go about things, then we'll be able to complete it and have it done before you come to the meeting.
Okay. And John, you've also talked about reconvening the strategic plan committee sometime this fall to sort of look at our strategic plan and, okay, this is what we said, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah.
Seems longer. This is what we did 2 years ago. Are we still moving in the same direction, or are there some things that we need, and inviting the community back in and having our chats?
So if anybody would like to work with me, I can come up with a kind of a template that I can share with everybody and get your feedback.
Quit looking at me.
I'm not looking.
Okay.
I'm happy I'm on this side of the table.
I'll reach out to our strategic plan committee and share the comments of the board and our desire to reconvene. And then you guys can figure out what you can do for board evaluation when you get involved in that second law.
Okay.
Don't you want me to do that?
Okay. Do that.
So MSBA versus Amy and Lynn promulgating a chart.
We will promulgate a chart.
We will promulgate
Got
a
it.
chart.
Do you want, looks like you want to? Kim?
I would participate on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the
Good.
three of us.
Yeah, had to work on that kind of stuff before.
Okay. Good.
All right. Perfect. Anything else? Nope. Okay. Update on COVID-19, John. Numbers low.
Numbers are incredibly encouraging. So our infection rate for Proctor and Handbook school districts, the greater area, is 0.92.
Nice.
President Campbell. Our vaccination rate is for the St. Louis County, 7%, and 65% for 12. So prior to the lowering the low age, we're doing really well in St. Louis County and Cook County as well, over 70%. I'm really encouraged by the impact that vaccines have made on our ability to care for. And so I continue to campaign for universal vaccinations, and I understand there's hesitancy, and I understand that there's, some resistance to vaccine, but this is the only way we're going to get out of this. It really is. And so there you go.
Okay.
And I don't see any changes or guidance coming. We've had parents say, "What's school going to look like?" It's going to be as normal as we think it's going to be. I don't see anything other than a normal year.
Okay.
Are there going to be masks? I think we're going to adhere to the summer learning plan, the return to in-person learning. Masks highly encouraged and recommended for unvaccinated. For those who are vaccinated, you don't need to wear masks. I think that's what we'll continue to do.
Okay.
But this is July.
No changes that I've seen from Terry regarding a mask policy or anything, or none of
Not
that
yet.
stuff, so
Not yet.
nothing has changed that way. Okay. All right. Anything else? All right, item 11D, review draft student handbooks and draft employee handbook. These were sent today. To be honest, I haven't looked at them. Came out
Yeah,
later
so
than I was looking.
our principal sent them earlier, and I think this meeting is a little bit premature to approve handbooks. I know they have worked really, really hard on them, getting them ready. We have the model handbook. Diane put together her student and parent handbook and has met with Mark so they can share the two. And so they'd be very, very similar, other than the fact that Diane will have her staff in the front of hers, and Mark will have his staff in the front of his, introduction to, parents. So the format, the policies, the content will be very similar. Of course, parking will be different, but the format is going to be the same. So they've worked on those. So I shared with you Diane's for Bayview, and Pike Lakes will be just like that, except the particulars as far as Tim's was preliminarily approved last year. He's made some changes based on, just looking at the model student handbook. And Joe Kressel's was preliminarily approved last year and will be the same. So I think our principals have done a good job. I apologize getting these out late. I thought that everybody had them in their hands earlier, and when I was reviewing with our principals, they said, "No, you were supposed to share them." So that's my fault. And I did talk with Jennifer, and I think with Lynn about rolling these out and getting them approved the very first meeting in August. This will give you 4 weeks, I think. 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks to look at them, ask questions of me, and get them going. This is way earlier than before. I mean, these are in your hands in July. And then we had this kind of sketchy employee handbooks that principals would have, and there was a desire by the board to create an employee's handbook. So we did create an employee's handbook. We modeled ours after 2 school districts, actually 3, Edina, Duluth, and Hill City. Well, anyway, there were 3 school districts that we kind of begged and borrowed and took little pieces from. So this is the cover. As you scroll down, and it's to the, yeah. So I do a little welcome. There is a link on our webpage to look at it. Gina and I have been working on this table of contents, and all those blue links are links to bookmarks within the handbook. We're working on the formatting of it. I have had some input from board members as far as what they'd like to see. Remember, this is for all employees. This is for Local 66, bus drivers, non-union employees, anybody who works in our school district. Where do you get keys? How do you park? What if I want to have a lunch at school? How do I do that? What do things look like? We also included our strategic plan and our beliefs and values as a district, and we want all of our employees to understand that equity, inclusion, and diversity are part of who we are as a district. And as we look at some of the discussions around the country and the state, we want to make sure that we're able to define equity, inclusion, and diversity from a universal standpoint. And I sent you some email today that reflects a little bit of what's in our handbook, and I think that's really a valuable piece of the puzzle. Our strategic plan is in there, and where our facilities are, what they look like. There's links to that. There's a link to our calendar. Actually, our entire calendar is in there. I can't quite see that. School board information. And there was a request from a school board member that we spiff up our school board page and include a picture of our school board members. So I don't know, I don't readily have your school photos or remember when you may have taken a school photo. Did you take one last year? I mean, does Life Touch have them?
Or submit one?
Pardon me?
Try to do it this school year?
Yeah.
Or submit one?
Because you just took, my photo is from when I was elected.
I just took it. Yeah, I just took it and gave it to.
Could you just draw me?
I'm not sure an artist could capture your essence.
So just let me ask you this: if you can you send me a picture of you?
Yes.
I think so.
I'll take one.
Otherwise, sit still.
I mean, we could take them today against a white wall if you want.
No, that's terrible.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying.
Anytime.
But you probably have.
Yeah, you had to
something.
take them for our IDs.
Yeah.
Our badges.
Except the mean one you took of me and made a badge of.
I've got some of you.
That was mean.
There, I sent you mine.
Okay.
I want you to make a decision on a photo.
Okay. All right. So if you give me those pictures, we'll spiff up the school board page, and probably spiff up our student handbook. And I have what do you do with student IDs? I took a picture of Lori's ID. That's just a placeholder. I'll get a nice picture from Life Touch of what ours look like. She lets me do stupid things. And so, I mean, I think it's, right now we're about up to, how many pages?
24.
What? 24 pages? And that's not including, I mean, if we were to print the whole thing, it would be, a book that thick. So we're going to stay in the digital format, and I just encourage you to look at it. as we move through our individual edits. Give me some feedback. Remember, we don't want this to be a teacher-oriented one or a union-oriented one or a contract-oriented thing, how do I file a grievance? Talk to your union guy or gal. I mean, I don't think it should be in the handbook. But what we should have is who your union presidents are and how to get a hold of folks. So that's the work we've been doing on this. I think once we're done formatting it, you're going to like it. So continue to look at that and review that. Give me your feedback. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Gina.
Okay. Items, let's see here, public relations update. No, start times, never mind, I crossed it off. Start times for the 2021-22 school year.
From our administrative standpoint, and from my standpoint, we're a go with last year's times. We're just going to move forward.
Hey, hang on. Woody wanted to be a part of this conversation, so. All right, Woody, you're on. So far, we've discussed that the administration team is looking at
Start times?
start times being the same as this past year, correct?
Correct.
That's where we're at.
I agree with this, using the same start time last year too.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I've had some conversation with Anthony, actually. Some of his work is done for fall and winter as far as scheduling buses and taking care of gym times and everything, facilities times and everything. So, yeah, it would really cause chaos if we change things right now.
Seems like it's a spring decision, maybe?
Yes.
I think so.
Or end of winter even, because I think he even starts scheduling fall and winter in like March.
Yeah, I think you need far more of a lead time than 2 months. You know,
Yeah, that
it's just
makes
a lot
sense.
lot of work to take on.
You know, and in my conversation actually with Anthony, that was what we discussed, is if we were going to change times, we should do it earlier in the year, so everything that needs to be scheduled and taken care of for the following year can be done.
We should do it when we approve the calendar for the year. Wasn't that was much earlier in the year, the 2021, 2022 calendar?
Yeah, it's February.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's when, I agree, we could start the discussion there, just because, it's just too close. Too much work has already gone into the current schedule, and I think that we would end up pulling kids out more often than we really want to at this point if we change it.
I know in talking with, and I think I brought this up at the last board meeting about, following the science about, elementary kids should start earlier and secondary kids should start later. And we've had this discussion. And so this means that we will stay with two-tier busing. But I don't know that we have had a discussion with enough input about what it means about who starts at what time and what the benefits are. And we can't, as much as extracurriculars are wonderful, we can't always base our decisions on what goes on after school for the secondary. And I don't know how elementary principals feel about start times, but
I mean,
I just want to make sure that that's discussed, because I've had calls from parents and from elementary folks, and maybe it's not everybody, but just that's a concern.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. I feel like if we were to make that change now, we have 2 school board meetings before we get rolling, and I just don't want it to be something that and I know we wouldn't do it, so I don't take it that way, we throw them together to meet that new timeline.
I'm just sorry that it's come to this meeting versus earlier.
Yeah, the problem is, there was just too much uncertainty. You know, and that's kind of been the driving factor for a lot of decisions, is, you know, looking at the science and waiting for science to give us recommendations. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, we're looking at a little bit of a brighter future, but we just don't know. And if we just if we move forward with what we did last year, with all of our kids in school, I think we'll be fine. And in an ideal world, what I like to do is return to single-tiered busing and have all our kids start at the common start time and get back to our normal way of what we've done with Project for 12 years prior to this year.
And it's Tanya's first year. I mean,
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, that's
You
a
have to give
lot to
Tanya
take on in the
something
first year, and,
Yeah.
I mean, she seems really motivated and excited, and I like her energy, but that's a lot to take on in a short amount of time. But I think, you know, to what Kim said, I mean, maybe that's when we talk about it next, is when we start talking about the calendar. I mean, really getting a good lead time to this discussion, you know?
Absolutely.
And I will say, even if we would have started this in February or March of this year, we didn't even know what the end of the school year was going
Right.
to look like, so
Right.
we couldn't have even discussed it then, you know. So I think it's kind of a learning as we go here, but yeah.
And truly, like we talked last time, is that we probably won't know if it's successful or not until we try it. Because you don't know what you don't know, and we don't have many schools that follow it. Duluth, again, has one less hour of class per day, so their start time is different. They get out around a little bit later than us, but they don't have an extra hour of instruction. And so I don't know that we can truly compare apples to apples there. But, yeah, I've added 3 things now to my calendar agenda template here. Now it's calendar and start times, and, you know.
Yeah, but I think that's a good discussion.
It's super good. It's
Yeah.
a super good time to manage that.
Yeah.
It's not right now.
I would also like to see our discussion, though, based on data, not just gut
sure.
feeling, or I think.
Usually MSBA at the convention in the winter, in January, they have someone that always speaks to school start times. I've gone once or twice.
Which tells you this is a universal discussion for many school districts. What is the right answer?
Right.
Thanks, Woody, you've been really helpful. I'm going to hang up now.
You didn't even wait for him to say goodbye. So good.
Just for discussion purposes, I mean, we have 2 elementary principals here, and we have students here. I mean, just, it's not necessarily hard data, but they're the people who live it. So, I mean, could they speak to it? I mean,
So maybe, you weren't here last time, so I just want to preface it. So the discussion out there is that there is lots of data that says that older secondary age students of your age, do better if they have a later start time, so starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, and that smaller children the elementary students should start at the earlier start times. Which means that you get out later, which means that your sports start later. I don't mean to be negative about it, but I'm just...
Extracurricular.
Yeah, thank you. Extracurricular, but everything else starts later, which means, like your practices. Any athletic events, you might have to get out of school earlier, so you might, for all your away games, miss 6th or 7th hour or both, depending on where you're going. There's lots of pros and cons to each of it, but you'd also get more sleep in the morning, which is better for the growing adolescent brain. So that's kind of the discussion. So elementary students historically would go to bed earlier because their parents are kind of managing their sleep. My big question is always, would you go to sleep early, or would you stay up late because you don't have to get up till 7:30?
I would say that teenagers.
Do you want to grab the microphone?
Yeah. Okay. So from experience, I know a lot of teenagers can't fall asleep until a later time because their brains are awake. And our REM sleep is at like 5 in the morning and beyond. That's why it's nice for first start terms to start later. When I was in middle school, I did dance, like studio dance, and I wouldn't get home until 10:30, 11 at night. And I would get on the bus at 6:30 in the morning because I lived all the way out in Twig, just so the buses could bring us to school and pick up elementary students as well. And that was really hard, waking up at 5:30, getting myself up and my sister up, and getting out the door when the sun hasn't even risen yet. It's still dark outside when we walk out the door. That was really hard. I lost a lot of sleep. I don't know how I did it, honestly, because I can never do that now. This past school year at 7:45, I was running late every day. And I'm just going to be honest, like, I was late every single day. Just pushing that back to 8 o'clock, that extra 15 minutes. When the time was 7:20, I'd be like, okay, I'm not rushing out the door as much, but once I saw the clock at 7:20, haven't even had breakfast yet, don't even have food on me, nothing. I just grabbed my keys and ran out the door because I didn't want to be late. It takes a good, from like the parking lot, just to get all the way up to the 3rd floor. It took me at least 5 minutes of a walk, not even going to my locker. We didn't have lockers in class here. And I know every single student that I've talked to, they say, please push it back later. Please get it later. No student that I've talked to is like the 7:45 time. Then again, I haven't really considered sports. I mean, that's just an extra thing. If they want to be a part of it, that's them. We have to consider the consequences of this is what you're going to be missing. What's more important to you, your education, your sport. And I guess that's a big battle that a lot of the times I tackle every single year. And it's like, should we be tackling that battle? Like, which one is more important? Everybody says education. But then again, physical activity is important as well. So I say yes, potentially make have the elementary schools go earlier. Because I know that Pike Lake didn't start until 9 because I went there. And I have worked in a classroom setting with like younger kids, and they are awake at that time. Then they need a nap. They get tired. So they're wide awake in the morning when we get there at 7 a.m., ready to play, ready to do whatever, as I get there at 8 and I'm still trying to wake myself up.
Yeah, I agree with Sydney. I've had a lot of the same challenges that she's faced. Like this year with COVID, it was hard anyways to do anything, but I showed up to school on time twice, and we're both good students, so that says a lot about us alone. But then you also have like your students who come in late anyways, and they're showing up at 7:45, and that's what I did every single day. I also have siblings, so they don't really help, but it was tough. I did enjoy starting school at 7:45 simply because we got out earlier, so that was a plus. But for extracurriculars, I'm in sports, and we did end up like leaving school earlier anyways. Like I would always miss 7th hour anyways, so it didn't really make a big difference for me compared to when we started at 8. So that was just, it didn't really change for me. And yeah, so I'd also like to know how many students actually do participate in extracurriculars, so we have that data as to like how many students would actually miss like 6th and 7th hour for their sports or like for drama or any other extracurriculars they were in, because that would give us a better idea as to why we would need to consider it.
I think last time, to answer that question, I think it's a quarter, like 1/4 of students across, like throughout what season have some sort of an extracurricular, whether it's an academic extracurricular.
More than, yeah.
1/2?
More than half.
More than half? Oh, okay, my apologies.
Like 260 kids.
260, okay. Thanks, Tim.
And it's more spring.
No.
Well, late, I mean, fall, it's not as much, is it?
That's about pretty consistent.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah, and you know, I'd also like to comment, I'm glad Tim is here. A couple of years ago, outside of COVID time, Tim and Joe put a lot of effort and time into figuring out how to get kids in desks. And part of the issue was the time they were missing for extracurricular activities. So a lot of work went into that to figure out how we can mend that, fix that. And we came to a little bit of a resolution on scheduling some things differently and doing some work like that. Now, if you throw a wrench into that system by starting later, you're going right back to what Tim was trying to prevent before. Instead of 7th hour, now we're going to have kids missing 6th and 7th hour. And I know it's not all about extracurriculars, but I want to point out, and Larry, if you'd comment on this, if anybody has had a chance to go out during our lunch deliveries and see what's happening in our community, there's also work issues for kids that need to help feed their family, plain and simple. So that, to me, is a big concern. If they get out later, they're more than likely going to try and work later, and I don't know that they have that capability with being good students and getting good grades. They may be great students, but the grades may not follow with how tired they may be.
And I understand. I mean, I was a teacher, and I had, in the spring, especially with track, you know, I could have a third of my class gone. And then it's like, okay, so how do I make this up? So I do understand, what it does, and getting those kids caught up, and then you give them a certain grace period, and then that gets extended. But I just would rather us make a data-driven decision, that we get all the information and not just little anecdotal tidbits here and there, that we have something that we can really look at.
And I don't think we're looking at 7:45 versus an 8 o'clock start time. I think it's like is it around the 8 o'clock hour or is it around the 9 o'clock hour start time realistically? I think it's a big jump. So, which would be that, and again, it's not, every class has equal value, whether or not it's your foreign language or it's your calculus class. But what if those were always, those harder classes that you needed to be in the seat were always 6th and 7th hour? You know, and maybe that's a scheduling thing, and I'm just thinking out loud. It's a scheduling thing that you'd probably not want calculus 6th or 7th hour for that reason, especially if Sav's coaching track in the spring, because then he's not there also when we have early release. And we have a lot of teachers that coach, and so you're also having to excuse the coach for enough time to be able to get out and cover that classroom, and subs are an issue, and there's so many things. There's so many things, but it's just interesting to think about.
And these are all things when we have a discussion, we're gonna have to discuss these different things. And you're right, we're gonna have to have data on it. We're gonna have to find out what's happening in other districts that are comparable to our district as far as economically and population-wise. But I don't think we're changing this year. And John just stated that his hopes is to go back to one tier, which this discussion would then be moved. We'd be starting at the same time.
Counselor.
It'll be interesting to see what Tanya can do when she finishes herself with the system. I'd like for her to be able to present to us some different scenarios for us to have a conversation around, because we spent some time indicating our preferences would be, but we also understand that there's a lot of geography, bus drivers, anything and everything that complicates this conversation. So I think by February, that's what it comes to, we'll be okay.
Your turn, Diane.
See, is that the remote to mute him?
Yes.
She's starting to carry over.
This is our first year at elementary, and I really just,
we really need to look at that for. We look at good students and look at the best. In the elementary, we always have our reading, our math courses. We try to get them in more simply because that's where they're on top of the papers they get up early. And, you get home, you're getting home, some of them 4:30, 5 o'clock, you get a dinner in, some of them are in their beds up, so there's not a lot of time. We'll parents, I heard that, think a lot. There wasn't a lot of time to really see their kid before they had to go to bed. I realize for the 20, this coming years, it's not going to happen enough on, but I think to really consider this, and I really like this idea. Start the discussion early.
Yeah.
Now, we have some real conversation. Maybe they go on here, like I said.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In talking with Tanya, have many families opted out yet? Have you got a feel from her yet? Opted out of busing at the secondary level in particular? Don't have a feel yet?
No, I don't. I don't have the data.
I talked to this morning.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other discussion?
I think if we're keeping a list of all the things to consider as we have this conversation again in the future, one of the things we might need to inquire about is when the high school determines the scheduling, or the class schedules for next year, or for the following year, because like what Diane was saying with the core classes in the morning, and of course I know Lynn spoke to that at the last meeting, that you don't want to have your band and theater and different classes necessarily at the end of the day always, and those are the ones that get missed. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you hit on that point. And but I think that's something to consider too, is, okay, they have a deadline at the high school when they have to have that schedule done and ready so that those high school students can register for classes again, so that everything stays on track. So I think we need to have that on our list of things to review. That's all.
We're done.
Let's turn it out on
Gotta
us.
turn off the lights on.
Just keep moving your arms, they'll
No, and
stay
I
on.
think we can have good discussion,
Yeah.
starting up next year, so.
Yeah.
And I appreciate all the feedback from you guys and both of you, just because it helps.
Absolutely. All right. Public relations update. Items relating to the district from the Proctor Journal. June 24th, Clay Target was featured, and our meetings being open after pandemic closing, July 1. Summer school in July 8th. County funding for SRO was mentioned. I didn't read the article. Reports. Number 12, school board committee reports. Anything to add on that? No? All right. 13, communications, school board comments and observations. Any celebrations?
I wasn't going to celebrate, but speaking of that Trust Edge, our next book discussion will be in August, and I think doing it the night of a board meeting is difficult because I think our discussions were somewhat curtailed. We felt like we were rushing, and so if we did it opposite nights, we also talked about the August one being a Zoom meeting, so if people wanted to sit outside and enjoy the evening and chat. So I guess my point is, would you like to do it earlier in August or later? Between the two before the first board meeting or between the two?
I'd be honest, I would like it earlier, but I'm not. And only because when you get towards the end of August, for those of us that have kids going back to school, we're starting to ramp up on a schedule there and get school shopping done and all of that, so.
And sports.
So if we pick the first Monday in August?
Yeah.
I will. I just thought I would check with the board here, and then I'll send something out tomorrow asking the entire committee when they could meet. But we could also, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Monday for the next one.
I do think a Zoom, though, we would get more attendance from people, because like you said, they can sit outside, they can listen, and they won't feel rushed, too,
because we have some really rich discussions, and I hated, okay, time out.
Well, and last one was really hard because we lost power.
Yes, that too. All right, so I'll throw it out for the first Monday in August, or should I do Monday or Wednesday and see which works better for people?
Might as well, not gonna hurt.
Okay, I'll send that survey out tomorrow. Thank you.
I'm sorry, he's over here cooking his pen, so I asked if I could see it. He goes, I'll stop.
Oh, you're so good, Amy. Great. Good grief. Okay. Other things I was thinking about, I'm just really grateful that Steve didn't get injured doing the roofing job. You know, Woody didn't even know, and he's teaching Woody how to roof, or not teaching, but working with him last night. I said, Anthony, I'm just so glad that Steve's on the ground. He's like, what? I'm like, oh, you weren't around then. It was a bad deal.
So, I don't think you could find another Frankenstein walker.
I know.
Franken walker.
It was just after I got elected to the board, and Steve fell off. He was doing a roof project and fell off and broke his pelvis and all sorts of things.
Oh, you broke more than that.
Yeah, his leg. Yeah.
Spent a lot of time in roofs before that, and a lot of time after that.
I know, but it just makes me nervous. So, no, I just, and I drove by, and the whole place was cleaned up. Like, you didn't even know a roof was done, except it looked really nice. I'm like, there wasn't a trailer, there wasn't anything. So, just, well done. A lot of community pride for you, all who have worked on that. Everyone just so proud of the community, how come together, and yes, you're employees, but it's one of those things that probably is other duties as assigned or as signed up for.
I spend more time talking about it than actually doing it. Just had to get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else from board members? Student liaison members, anything else to add to enrich our conversation and discussion today?
I think the big thing that was for the student body was the school start times, and I appreciate you guys listening to our comments, and I just want to prepare you for all the snarky comments that all of us are probably gonna, not me, but the student bodies that's gonna make, and the parents in the upcoming school year. You'll probably hear it in the hallways, and because nobody's gonna like the 7:45 start time. Just want to prepare you for that. But hopefully it could be open to changing in the upcoming years. But just so you know, I've already talked to people and they're like, I don't like it, and they just go up on this huge rant, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah. I know, but there's nothing that we can do about it right now, so you just have to deal with it. But they don't like to. So if you get emails from students, you probably will, because some of them are like that. Just want to pray for that.
Well, once our pictures are there, then they'll know who they're.
Right.
Oh, her.
Yeah, I just remember during the whole COVID situation, when we were debating between, 2 days a week, 4 days a week. I know so many people that are I'm emailing the principal and I'm emailing this person, and I'm like, oh gosh. Okay, so all the students at Proctor are not afraid to speak their mind. And I think that's a really good thing, but maybe in a more professional tone, not the way that they put it. So, be prepared for that. That's all I gotta say.
And Lynn will remember that Josie and I went to school 7:45 to 2:26 every day. It didn't change from 7th grade all the way to 12th grade, and I didn't know any different. And it's just kind of how it was. Yeah, it just was. So it's just. But it's just different. It's just different to hear how. And it might be just as time has changed, just the more that we know, but we didn't know any different, and we didn't know to ask for anything different either.
Mm-hmm. Right. And a lot of the times this is honestly going to prepare a lot of us for after high school as well, when we start getting more careers and jobs, and a lot of them start at
8 o'clock or even before that. So it's honestly probably a good thing. It's just after this past year, everybody's used to being off for so many days, and everybody's used to sleeping in until the afternoon, where this 5 days a week, 7:45 start time, it's going to...
It's going to be a big shock.
Yeah, it's going to be a big shock, and everybody's going to be running late the first couple weeks. Even parents are probably going to not be on time because they're really not used to getting up either, because everybody's been just a nice little break this past year. So it's going to be, definitely a shock.
Try teaching Shakespeare at 7:45.
It's lively.
I like Shakespeare.
Not always a great sell.
I actually loved doing that, but a lot of my classmates did not.
I loved it.
Shakespeare at 7:45.
3:30 and I'll get 2 hours in
Wait, are you serious? Sorry, Mom.
She's going to look for that first hour of study hall.
Yeah.
And she'll get a pass to sign out of it. All right. Anything else?
I think that's all I have.
So?
No, I don't really have anything. I mean, you already know that you deal with a lot of garbage, but you also know that it's kind of part of the job, and we really appreciate that you put up with it.
Yeah.
And it's really, I'm thankful that we get to see it all now, and we get to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. The only thing that I would say is, I know I've talked to some students about potentially giving out surveys that they can fill out about some things, would you prefer this over this? So then they have a little bit more, I feel like that they have kind of a say in what goes on, because all these decisions are obviously made for them. So even just to see some data, would you prefer the earlier start time, the later one? Would you care more about going earlier and missing less for sports? Just certain questions like that, just to see, so they actually feel wow, they're taking into consideration of what we think and what the majority says and prefers.
But then also having them give a reason as to why they would prefer it, instead of just be yes, no. I think that would not only help the students make us feel a little bit more worthy, but also help you see their reasoning too, and have some sort of data from our students in the district.
I think if I might, I think our board chair made a very good comment. It's not like we're going to start later and start at 8 o'clock rather than 7:45. If we flip-flopped, you would start at 9 o'clock rather than the 7:45. So 9 o'clock would mean that you go from 9 o'clock to when would it end, Tim? 4. So practice would start at 4:15, 4:30, and run considerably later for anybody who's in drama plays, or whatever. And kids who are going out of town would miss not just 7th hour, but 6th and 7th hour. So that's the big thing is, what would that look like for half of our kids having a 4 o'clock end time?
I think just the dinner hour. Your basketball numbers do the dinner hour, and you're home at 7 for heated up dinner, and by way of all this homework.
I just think, it's switching it to a different time, but sometimes that makes all the difference in just your work-life balance and your school-life balance. And sleep is important in there too, so I don't know. It's just switching the pendulum just a little bit, sometimes rocks the boat a little bit too.
And we don't, like you said, we don't really know until we try it too. We don't know what the right answer is till we try it.
And the other thing that we forgot to talk about just for you guys is that if you don't start school till 9 o'clock, what if your coach says you have practice at 6:30 or 7?
in the morning because you have a morning practice now?
We already have that problem.
Yeah.
What if that was like that all the time? You know, you have a game that, you know, all these things, and if your coach throws a morning practice in more often because it's available, and that's the only gym time.
I have like a cousin that goes to Denfeld, and she was on dance line, and they would always have morning practices, and she's like, I like it. And during this past school year, I would go to the gym early in the morning, and it didn't bother me, honestly. It got me more awake for my day. So when I actually went into first hour, I was like, wow, I feel actually ready to learn, and I could pay attention far more because I was already up and alert. So I personally wouldn't mind it. A lot of people are different.
Yeah.
But also, we ate lunch at 10:30 in the morning and then get done, and then some people would go to sports like right afterwards, and then they wouldn't eat dinner until after that. So that's a big chunk in between of not being able to eat because we weren't allowed to eat in classrooms because of COVID restrictions. And then they would probably just like get a snack in between. But it's like that time difference between they're probably hungry, then have to go to practice, and then finally get to eat afterwards. That's also a big time difference. So it all balances out in the end. No matter what plan you look at, there's always going to probably be a big chunk of time, just depending on which one would you like more, which one do you think that you could handle more.
Absolutely. All right. Any township or city communications?
I have a question. Solway postponed their meeting until like the 1st of August sometime. Do you have new talking points for me?
I can give them to you.
Okay. I have the ones from before, but I just didn't know if we had new talking
I don't have
points.
new ones. I think they're the only ones who postponed, aren't they?
Yeah. Yep.
So, are they doing it at the community night back?
I'm not. Wait. I have the date in my phone. We could talk later. Oh, I've got that. Yep.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, item number 14 is a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion by Amy. Is there a second? Thank you, Jim. Meeting adjourned at 8:50. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? There we are.
Who will our next generation be? What will they achieve? At Proctor Public Schools, we see great things in the future as we create an environment to educate, engage, and inspire our students to seek adventure, gain knowledge, and make a difference. What do we see in the next generation? We see greatness. Proctor Public Schools. Don't just plan to graduate. Graduate with a plan.